All right, good evening. I'd like to call the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting tonight for January 20th. My name is Clay Alsop. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate everyone being here. Let's start off tonight with a roll call. Since we don't have any members of the public, we'll forego our normal opening statement. Commissioner Waitman.
Present.
Commissioner Grice. Sorry, I'm going off an old list, different order. So, Commissioner Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Nelson.
Present.
Commissioner Schaefer. And Commissioner Fighter.
Present.
All right, do we have any speaker request forms tonight? We do not. Thank you. So let's start with the consent agenda. Consent agenda is for items that are routine in nature, and tonight's consent agenda is item 1C, minutes from the December 9th, 2021 meeting. Do we have a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Please vote. Thank you, Commissioners. 1C vote passes unanimously. We'll proceed to the regular agenda tonight. We have two items tonight. Item 2R, development project updates, and 3R, election of officers. We'll start off with 2R, and I believe this is entirely a presentation from staff, correct? So there'll be no action on this item tonight. Thank you. Please present your report.
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Welcome and Happy New Year, although I've seen a number of you already at committee meetings and neighborhood meetings, and so it's been a busy year already. So what we thought we would do tonight is maybe ease us into 2022. We don't have a development case tonight, but we thought would be helpful would be to give the commission an update on our work plan for the year, and not just some of the code amendments that are coming that you'll be seeing this year, but also some of the development cases that are likely to come forward to the commission this year as well. And then at the end, talk to you about last year we had a lot of good topics that we discussed among the commission to help give us context to everything else we're seeing in development. We talked about traffic and water policy. I think tonight we'll want to get your input about other topics you might want to hear as far as that deliberation for this year. We can certainly arrange those speakers here. So tonight, Lori and I are going to do a little tag team here. I'm going to provide a little introduction, talk about some of the highlights that we saw last year, and then we'll talk about some of the things that we see going forward. Okay, as you know, our department, we play a key role in guiding growth and redevelopment decisions in the city. Now, we don't work alone. We work with a number of departments in the city that all have a role in development. We work with engineering and traffic. We work with fire and police, parks and recreation, public works, and a number of them. And collectively, we all have a role in analyzing cases and coming to a collective position on these things. The department, we also currently manage 3 other boards and commissions outside of the Planning Commission. We do manage the Board of Adjustment for things like variances and code interpretations. We manage the Design Review Board and also the Historic Preservation Commission. So before we look forward in 2022, I think it's good to look back and reflect on 2021. We certainly accomplished a lot. There was a lot of activity that came to the city. It's a busy year, and 2022 is going to be proved to be just as busy, if not busier. But looking back on 2021, as you all know, we were in the throes of the pandemic. We're still in the middle of the pandemic, aren't we? But we tried to do a number of things to try to assist businesses in this time. You might recall we did a couple of amendments that were tied to the mayor's emergency declaration. One was the suspension of the temporary sign code. And the purpose of that was that we noted during COVID there were some very specific sign needs that businesses had. So whether it was special hours, drop off or pickup, indoor dining or not, we did suspend this temporary sign code. That's still in place. Again, that's tied to the emergency declaration. We also adopted a expedited temporary use permit for outdoor dining, and that you'll recall back in the days when they had they didn't have full occupancy. We gave them the ability to have some of that occupancy outdoors, and we tried to expedite those TUPs. And we've had a number of them that we have processed over the last year. We also continue to make updates to our development portal, so developers can submit cases and they can access comments electronically. And so they've been able to do that for a few years in other case types, but we were able to finally institute some of our major cases like rezones and site plans. So a developer can now, so those are fully electronic, they can submit plans, they can get their comments, and so it's fully electronic. This year, we're continuing to work on a couple more that we have remaining, and that's design review and general plan amendments, and then we'll soon be in a position where all of our case types are basically electronic submittal, and we also review these cases electronically. We also have a number of projects around town that are starting construction or they've completed, and some of those projects include Reunion Physical Rehabilitation Center in Plaza del Rio, Desert Harbor Medical Center, so you have a growing medical core that's continuing in that area. Also, Sunrise Promenade, this is up near Happy Valley on Lake Pleasant Parkway. This is, I guess, anchored by the Aldi's there. That project is mostly complete. There's the multifamily portion was in the back, and I think that's still completing construction. There might be a few tenant spaces left there, but that's well underway. 83rd Marketplace, southeast corner of Lake Pleasant, I'm sorry, 83rd in Happy Valley. Those buildings have been there for a few years, and finally they've been successful in resolving some of the outstanding issues, and now we're starting to see tenants come in. I think we've got maybe a few that have their signs up, and we've got a restaurant that may be nearing their completion of their tenant improvement there. Also, we've had an uptick in multifamily residential, just reflecting on some of the housing conditions valley-wide, nationwide. But we've had an uptick in multifamily. We've got the Prescott at Park West. You might recall that one, west side of 99th. That's under construction right now. Also in the Park West area, the Tramoco Residential, that was parcel 3. It's not under construction, but we do have building plans in place for that one now. So that one's in. 83rd and Olive, the northwest corner and the southwest corner, those are both well under construction as well. And then you might note if you've gone on Olive and 95th, which is southwest, just west of the Quick Trip there, we now have some horizontal construction that's going on. There's some grading going on for that project. That was a townhouse project that went through the planning process, I want to say maybe a couple of years ago, and it was on pause for a while, but that's now going through new grading on that site. Single-family residential, we've seen just a whole bunch of construction that's continuing. Probably some of the major master plans that we've seen a lot of activity, Alora Vita North, which is north of Jomax and 75th Avenue. Seen lots of new permit issuances up there in construction. We are working with Alora Vita on the southern portion on some preliminary plats for some of those parcels in that area. Also Mystic, that's the area in Lake Pleasant Heights near Vistancia, south of the CAP. We've seen a number of permits and homes go up in that area. We're continuing to see lots of activity there. And then I mentioned Vistancia, north of the Cap. So we now have lots of plats that have been recorded and construction beginning in those areas as well. And then the other one in the area too, because that's a hot area. We get probably half of our permits come from the Vistancia area, I would say, of the single family permits, but it's called the Cowley development. I don't know that we've had a updated name for it. I think we still refer to it as Cowley, but we've had a number of plats that have been approved for phase 1 and phase 2 west of Vistancia there. We've had also some significant development cases that have come through commission that have been entitled or not quite to the construction phase, but you'll recall Camino Lago, the multifamily residential. We did approve a site plan. I believe they might be in the permit stage now. The other one that I think is pretty significant, this is the Converge at P83, 75th and Paradise Lane, southwest corner. That's the city's first vertical mixed-use development. You'll recall that's the 5-story multifamily with structured parking and ground floor retail. That's going through site plan review right now. And then we have, I mentioned Park West, and then the Rovey project. That was a very significant project, very recently came to commission. That was approved by council a couple days ago. So that was a large master plan of Shea Homes and Van Trust Real Estate. We are now, we have a site plan in for one of those industrial parcels, and I believe the pre-plat for phase 1 is in now, isn't it? Okay, so it just came in. On the zoning ordinance update side, we had some major amendments that we worked through with the commission. Recreational marijuana, that was with the passage of that proposition back in 2020, but we were able to update the zoning code to address that. and also mobile food vendors, you know, reflecting on the changes to state statute, we were able to modify the provisions, actually make it a little more seamless, a little easier for mobile vendors to work, provided they stay within certain guidelines there. And then a conversation that we started last year with the commission that's going to continue this year, and that's the completion of our update to our design review guidelines, and you'll see more discussion in the days ahead on that one.
Chairman, if I just interrupt real quickly, do we want to hold questions until the end, or can we ask after you finish each section, or how do we want to proceed on that?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'm happy to take questions as we go, or at the end, the way it works.
Yeah, by all means, whatever.
Okay, if you don't mind asking, what would trigger this, I'm trying to think how to word this here. What would trigger the suspension of those temporary COVID restrictions or COVID measures that you talked about earlier, like with the signage and so forth?
Right.
Would it be case counts? Is there a certain date we're aiming to restore that, or what?
So those were measures adopted by council that were tied to the mayor's declaration of emergency. So at some point, that declaration will not be in place, and then those measures won't be in place. Now, we understand that you can't just, you know, you give businesses the opportunity to provide temporary signage, and you can't just turn the switch and now they're illegal. So we would work on a campaign as that's coming forward. We would want to work on an information campaign to let them know that this is happening, this is coming, and we'll give them a period of time to come into compliance with the code. So it wouldn't be something that was overnight. We'd want to work with them on that.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you,
bet.
Chairman.
We have a question from Commissioner Fider.
As somebody that works with a tremendous amount of retail tenants, good luck reeling that back in.
We know we have our work ahead of us.
I know you do.
All right, and so I'd like to look ahead in a minute. I'm going to turn it over to Lori, but first, what we're going to talk about on our work plan are several categories. We'll talk about some, I guess, more in the area of regulatory revisions, more code amendments that we're looking at this year. We'll give you a preview of some of the major development cases that are in play that you'll see this year. And we also want to talk about some process improvements that we're looking at that hopefully will make the development process a little more seamless, better access to information and so forth. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to want to get your ideas on topics we might want to explore over the next year or so. All right, so in terms of major general plan amendments, we ratified, or I should say the voters ratified the general plan in 2020, but as you know, we do entertain minor adjustments from time to time, and they are on an annual cycle. So the 2022 major GPA cycle, we don't have any cases that have been submitted from the private side at this point. Our deadline is usually around April or May or so, and we're still deliberating internally if we'll have any amendments to the general plan. And so that could be something that you see go through the process again this year. In terms of text amendments, and these are amendments to the zoning code, we're looking at a number of areas that we'll be bringing forward to you this year. Noticing requirements. We're looking to make some enhancements to our notification process. And what I mean by that is right now we've got, when you compare our city to other cities in the valley, we have some of the most expansive notification processes in the valley. We, as you know, go out 600 feet. Some of the larger areas go out to a quarter mile. So we're among the most expansive in the valley, but we're looking at other ways that we can try to get the notification out earlier. And one of the ideas we have is when a development case comes in, a lot of times the sign won't go up until the case is ready for hearing. Well, maybe what it needs to happen, it needs to come in at the early, when we have a notice of application so that the public has an idea of what's in progress earlier than by the time it goes to hearing. So we're looking at things like that. We're looking to better align the notification timeframes that we have, for example, neighborhood meetings, as opposed to other notifications that we provide and make it more consistent. So those are the kind of things we're looking at. We'll probably be bringing that forward to commission, I think in the spring timeframe is what we're looking for. But we think these are some good amendments. We already have some ideas on that, and we'll probably want to do a study session first before we bring it to the commission. The other one we have is a bigger one, and this is non-residential standards. So now that we've adopted the general plan has been ratified, we want to make sure our commercial industrial districts align with our general plan. So what that means is that's a review of our standards that apply to commercial and industrial, and also our land use matrix. We want to make sure that the zoning districts that we have, right now we have quite a few of them, we want to make sure that they better align with the general plan land use categories, and that the land use matrix better aligns with the expectations of each of those districts. So this is something that hasn't been modified in some time. We've done some surgical changes in the past, but we're looking at a really a comprehensive look to this whole section in the code. Also, the parking code is another one. We're looking at a pretty comprehensive look at this, not only looking at our parking requirements for different land use types, but also looking ahead, shared parking, also bicycle parking, you know, different types of scenarios that we're seeing these days. So this is going to be a pretty comprehensive look at the parking code as well that you'll be seeing. Group homes, this is a response to Fair Housing Act and Department of Justice, you know, responses that we've gotten in the past. Not we, but instruction that have been put out throughout the nation. And so we're basically updating our section of the code that pertains to group homes to comply with those that information. Also with small cell, with the 5G updates throughout the communities, making sure our code is up to date and is compliant with FCC rulings that have taken place. Right now we have a memo in place that kind of regulates and provides direction to applicants. So we're going to want to make sure that's codified. And then accessory structures. This is something that we talked about with the commission last year, but we're revisiting some things, and I think we're going to want to revisit that discussion with the commission on that one. And then, as I mentioned, the design review update, that's a really a big thing. We've already had some discussions on that, but we're going to want to continue those, and the objective would be to have the design review manual updated hopefully by the summertime is the time frame we're looking at there.
Chris, I had a comment.
Yep.
Too. On the non-residential standards, I'd be really interested to see what we may or may not do on batteries. I think that's just growing and growing, going to continue. And then small cell, 5G, I'd just be interested in being a part of that conversation early on, or we can have a study session here. But I think those have a lot of impacts that I'd be interested in seeing what they could be like.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, absolutely. In fact, the one on the small cell, we could probably have that discussion earlier as a study session. We do have a draft amendment, I think, for that one, but we could certainly do that.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And clarification, because I realize a lot of people get confused. When I'm talking about batteries, I'm talking about grid batteries, not garages, residential batteries. There's a distinction there. Thanks.
Yep.
Oh, Commissioner Nelson, sorry.
Thank you. When you said batteries, I thought you probably were asking the same question I was, but it turns out you weren't. So when we talk about the parking code, is there a way to encourage more charging stations as part of that, or is that really a whole different discussion altogether?
Go for it.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nelson, since I'm partially leading, actually I am leading that one, yes, we are looking at a much more robust system. Chris highlighted a number of areas, including alternative vehicles. So we're looking at it not only for shared parking, it could be carpool, van pool, the charging stations, additional bicycle parking. So we are looking at creating a much more enhanced parking code with adding a number of tools in there for us to look at. It is probably going to be a multi-part conversation. There's a lot to unpackage in that particular section. We're looking at possibly two sets of the conversation. The first half would be some of those alternative methods for parking, getting those tools in place. Could be parking and loading standards as another piece of the puzzle. When you get into the parking ratios, there is a lot of discussion centered around those because that adds dollars to a project if you are asking them to put in additional parking. So we're going to spend a fair amount of time and probably put that towards the second half of the conversation and kind of unpackage that in bite-sized pieces because it dovetails somewhat concurrently with the non-residential standards. The uses that we define in that area, you want to quickly provide the developer, the consultant, the ability to look in the parking code and know what they have to provide on their site. So it will be a two-part conversation. We will be back in front of commission quite a bit on that one.
Sounds like a good approach. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Lauren.
You're hitting all my favorite subjects. So very excited. Judging by our huge audience tonight, I'm the only one excited about all these. But definitely would love to be a part of all those conversations.
Absolutely, and I think what worked well last year that we'll endeavor to do this year as well is, we like to bring the amendments forward early enough to get your input before we ask you to vote on them. So bring them forward, review the case with you, get your input, and then bring them back later on. All right, with that, I'm going to ask Lori to cover the second part of it.
Yeah, I will take that. All right, members of the commission. So I have the pleasure of doing some highlights of upcoming projects that you will see either in this year or next year or shortly thereafter. What I would say is, because these are not agenda-sized for the evening, I can only provide high-level discussion. If we can, I'd like to hold off on any questions until we're able to have a much more detailed conversation when they get here. Some of them will be sooner than others, but they are coming. So here's the list. The first one is Trailheads, approximately 39 acres. If commission remembers, this has been, I believe, in front or right before. It was withdrawn right before it got to commission. So and they had reformulated this application. So what has happened is there's 39 acres. It is partly state land and it's private development. We did have a successful bidder on the state land piece. The resulting is what you see on the screen. The uses are mixed use, commercial, multifamily, and worship and office uses. There are multiple cases under review. Mr. Gleason behind me has the pleasure of spearheading that one. There's not only a development agreement, there's a GPA, so a general plan amendment, and we have 2 PADs. The reason being is a portion of this site is actually within the Elora Vita PCD. So we have to take that portion of the property out of the Elora Vita PCD in order to create a whole brand new PAD for the project in and of itself. So this will be a multi-part conversation. That kind of does note is with development, any of the cases that we're bringing in front of you, the easy ones are pretty much done. It's getting pretty complicated from here on out. So we're going to have some pretty heady cases coming before you this year, I think, in particular. So not to be outdone, Stadium Point is officially in. The postcards have gone out. If you will recall, the city released an RFP, and Chris helped me 3 years ago, working with American Life in order to energize this portion of the Peoria Sports Complex. For those in the planning field, we call it Parcel 2A, but it is approximately where you see with Mariners and 83rd Avenue right there. The site in question is about 19 acres. That entire PAD is 179 acres in total, so they are asking to amend a portion of that PAD. This is a mix of uses: Class A office, hotel, multifamily, retail, dining, and entertainment, and there are going to be parking garages associated with this. In particular, they are amending the PAD for 2 items. The first is this area is envisioned for 10 stories. They are asking for additional height on that. The second is enhanced sign standards. This is the P83 area. It is an entertainment district. They are trying to create a much more entertainment and urban feel, if you will. So they're looking at additional sign standards, including digital signage at this location. So the neighborhood meetings are going to be putting on the books. There's going to be opportunity for comment. That one will be coming to commission sometime this year. Next one is a collaboration working with state land.
Sorry, Lori, we had a question from Commissioner Schaefer.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. Lori, quick question on that, and I know these are not agenda items, so if we can't go into discussion, I completely understand. Since there's community outreach for that Parcel 2A, have we reached out to the teams, the Padres and Mariners? Are they in support of this, or is that a later discussion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, what I will say is this is a very collaborative effort. We have multiple departments, including staff working with the sports complex and in collaboration with the teams. None of the items being presented to commission has not been vetted with the teams. And so it is a close-knit conversation. There's multiple pieces to this puzzle. So yes, there's been team involvement. There will be quite a bit of opportunity for public comment as well. So we are excited for this one to be moving forward.
Thank you, Lori. I know we want that 30-year deal with those teams. We want to, want a good partnership there. So thanks, Lori.
So ASLD, sorry for the acronym, but Arizona State Trust Land. This is a collaboration. We have worked with them over the last, let's just say, in earnest for the last few years to move a number of parcels, strategic parcels, to advance those. This one is leading the pack right now. It is affectionately known as Parcel B until we have a much more eloquent name for you. It's approximately 189 acres in size. It's around 109th Avenue in Deer Valley. So this is an annexation case, initial zoning, and a rezoning for review. So the city will be handling the annexation request. Because it's not in city limits, we have to establish the initial zone. Shortly thereafter, we will then be asking for consideration on the rezoning case. More on this one to come. We do have a neighborhood meeting coming very shortly, so we do expect this one to come in front of commission relatively soon, probably in the summer timeframe. This one is not a project, but more of an area, and I might tap Chris for some eloquent words here, but this particular intersection has significant development interest and pressure right now. So Lake Pleasant Parkway and Jomax, we have 3 cases currently in. The first 2 are multifamily in nature, Pinnacle Vista, Prestige Homes. Both have had first submittals in. They have had neighborhood meetings. We do expect perhaps some refinements. So there's no ETA on that particular one. In addition to that area, at the southwest corner, if you will, is a Hilton Home to Suite. That one has generated some interest. So we are continuing to work with the community on those comments. So stay tuned. No ETA on that one yet, but that particular corner has a number of development pressure, development interest in it.
Lori, we have a comment on that. Commissioner Schaefer.
Thank you, Chair. Lori, quick question. The Hilton Homes Suite on the kind of the southwest corner there, is that, you said it was initial, is that a rezone or is that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, so originally the request was for a general plan amendment and a rezoning case. Based on staff's review, should the applicant move forward, we think the refinements being contemplated, it may not require a general plan amendment, so that may go away. But until we have something formal, that is where we are at in the discussion.
Thank you, Lori.
So looking to the future, what you see on the screen is a wonderful land use map once upon a time that we showed to commission during the general plan update, if you will. So there are three projects on the screen. The first one is the most familiar that Chris has already talked about, which would be Vistancia, not to be outdone with Lake Pleasant Heights over to the right of it, Saddleback Heights, that touches 74. So the first one that I wanted to point out to you is what we call Development Unit A and Development Unit B. Development Unit A looks like this, everything south of the cap. What you see in that box over to the left, those are either completed or under construction on homes. That's 160 acres right there. Pretty much all of the plats that you see are into construction documents right now. We have additional pre-plats in. Avia Mystic, that A5 piece right at the corner of Westland and El Mirage is into construction documents and likely will be going vertical at some point soon. The two vacant pieces right on the corner of what we're calling Forest Pleasant Place in El Mirage, which is called A3, and Dead Center with A3 and A4. Those are currently in discussion. So in total, what you see on the screen is either currently in for conceptual planning or under construction. So the entire south piece of Development Unit A as Mystic is rocking and rolling right now, so to speak. With that, we've had initial conversations, first blush, going north of the cap for Development Unit B. That's everything shown in purple. Approximately 345 acres. Given what we know and how the market changes, there may be some contemplation and some switching of land uses here and there. That remains to be seen. Also, the terrain is challenging, to say the least. So as additional engineering has come in, they are relooking at a couple of other items. So this is an exciting piece because we are potentially looking at going north of the cap. We do not have an ETA for this one. Preliminary conversation, but those conversations continue.
Lori, I had a question. Can you
Sure.
go, the Mystic slide, it showed where all the current Mystic stuff is, the previous one to this, yeah. Do we know what A11, 12, and 13, the land uses are? Can we say that at this point?
Mr. Chairman, that is residential right now. Those are small lots. Those are currently in for review.
Okay.
So we should see that, if successful, going into construction documents anywhere from 2 to 4 months, roughly.
Thank you.
So the next item is what we are projecting. Again, going back to the map, Vistancia and Saddleback Heights. So part of one of the major general plan amendments, if you will see on the screen, is that connection from Vistancia to Saddleback. Originally, that was not contemplated, and so with the update to the circulation plan becomes opportunities. Vistancia already had a refinement to their planned community development, their PCD, or PAD on steroids because of the acreage. So they've already modified some of their land uses, and what you see on the screen is primarily what they call Development Unit H. Everything that is in that image is pretty much either built or going vertical very shortly. We have already processed that number of pre-plats. They're looking to activate additional development units in either I or J. So depending on how the infrastructure shakes out, you could see additional development start marching north towards Saddleback Heights. And because of that connection, we suspect at some point in time, this is Saddleback's entitlement. So number one, they have to modify their entitlement plans to add that roadway connection to Vistancia to reflect that. When they do, there may be an adjustment to some land uses contemplated in there and some of the infrastructure. So at this point in time, it's likely coming. We don't know if it's a major, minor at this point, depending on how they want to process the conversation, but we do expect to have a Saddleback Heights conversation within the next couple of years, for sure. Are there any questions on this particular one? Okay. All right, so that was the teaser. There's actually much more that we have in the hopper, but that is the teaser of some of the big ones coming. In terms of process improvements, while they may not be as energetic as some of the development review cases, they're actually, to some degree, more important for our day in and day out operations. The first one that we're looking at is we've heard and we've understood that some of our development fees may be slightly askew. So we're evaluating how much time it actually takes us now, because we've had a number of process improvements and resulting in perhaps some more efficiencies in time. So we're taking a look at our fee structure for approximately 5 areas. We think we need to have some modifications to get those rebalanced. So that's something that we'll be looking at sometime this year. In addition, the website. We have attempted this a couple of times, but we are doing it in earnest now, especially with additional capacity coming on board from staffing increases, where our website is our front door. And how easy it is for somebody to use and get to that information, that's key for us. One of the things that our webmaster has also indicated that most of our users, and I did not know this, 6 out of 10 users coming onto our site are using a mobile device. So our tried and true desktop environment where you are scrolling down, that just doesn't work for them. So we have to rethink how we present information. How many clicks does it take to get to the center of the lollipop, so to speak? So we want to get them in and out of the site, get the information, and it also helps us answer questions more effectively and efficiently. With that, we want to enhance our resource library. We did create a handout for the mobile food vendor. We believe we need additional how-tos to answer some of our questions to make it easier for especially our mom and pops coming in. We are even looking at potentially videos. If you'd like to volunteer your time, we would gladly accept any donations of narration and going and talking about videos. But really it is more is how do we best reach out and get the information that our audience needs? So we're exploring that. Also, our application forms and process guides, they just need to be refreshed, and so it's time to do that.
Hey, Lori, sorry to interject. Your process improvement, do you guys have a user group that you've kind of, some developers or whatever that, or mom and pops that would utilize your website and your services? Have you sat down with them and asked what's clunky and what can we improve and everything? You got feedback from user groups like that?
Commissioner Schaefer, those are fabulous questions. Sometimes it's difficult to identify how they're navigating because they don't always go through the front door, so to speak, in the main page and then go to planning. They may bookmark it or come into a different direction. They may hit engineering first and then come into our side of the shop, so to speak. So we're trying to work with our webmaster to understand what is our most used links, where are our hot spots at. I would say I was incredibly surprised and pleased that when we were going through the general plan process, we were the most recognized and touched web page out there. Who knew? I mean, you generally don't get that, but even it brought comment, what are you guys doing? They're hitting this page constantly. So things like that. So we're trying to reach out. We know if you're working with a consultant, they want to get in, they want to get out. So we want to adjust those applications so that they're separated. You don't need the process guide if you've already been through the process. You just want the applications, get in and get out. So we kind of have an understanding based on feedback, but Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have a survey coming out which may also inform that conversation.
Yeah, Lori, commissioners, yeah, in collaboration with the Engineering Development Department, we did this a few years ago. The plan is to do it again, and that is a major reach out to all that have submitted permits or applications to the city within the last, in a recent period of time, and then to get their feedback on their experience on different parts with the city. So that's usually in the form of a survey. We leave room for open-ended questions, and then we always contact them back to get more information on the open-ended questions. So that'll be happening this year.
Thanks, Chris, and Lori, thank you. It really sounds, you guys got a great process, and it sounds like you're definitely looking at how to improve, so that's good to hear. So thank you, Chris, thank you, Lori.
We have a comment from Commissioner Nelson.
Just a clarification, so are you talking about a total redesign of the City of Peoria's website to make it more user-friendly and mobile-friendly, or are we talking about just redesigning the planning and engineering section of the site?
Commissioner Nelson, we're going to stay in our own sandbox. There are some modifications to the website. It will not necessarily impact the look and feel. It just might be a more streamlining of the process. We are very specifically targeting our style of pages and our usability. So we're taking a very concerted look to focus on our items and get those up to snuff. So,
And if I can add too, the city had put out an RFP for a larger citywide organizational refresh of the website. But that takes some time to get that going and get that in place. So in the meantime, we're looking at doing some of these refreshes that can help our customer base.
So you're looking at doing some things more quickly before the larger project launches?
Correct, that's right.
Oh, I got you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
On a similar note, the application review that you're soliciting, is that just planning applications or citywide?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that would be all of them. So permits, civil plans, the rezones, it would be the whole universe of them.
Okay.
all right. So, last but not least, we are looking for your feedback. Typically, for training opportunities, we do a refresh on open meeting law every so often. It is time to be back in front of the board, some do's and some don'ts, just a refresh. And that's working with, in conjunction with the city attorney's office on that particular one. In addition, I do want to do a plug. Commissioners are available to go to the planning conference this year. It is August 24th through 26th. The theme is Back to the Future. I know somebody who might be a little bit more of the, the theme is already sparking interest. As a shout out, and in case you want to do a fun fact, we actually do, in the planning department, have 2 directors at large for the APA. So Peoria is well represented at the planning conference this year. The gentleman also, who did not know I was going to single him out, Mr. Kufis, if you would please. He is one of our directors at large representing, and we do have an additional planner, Sarah Dirks. She is another director at large. They are taking on an additional set of roles within the APA, and we look forward to expanding our presence. But to get back to the conference, commissioners, you are welcome to go listen in on the sessions themselves. It does cover a wide range of topics, so there's likely something on there that you touch, especially at these meetings, that might be of interest to you. We can send out more additional information as it gets closer to time. Right now, they are doing call for presentations.
Is that, you said APA, which I know is national. Is this an Arizona-specific conference?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. This is an Arizona-focused conference. The national is this year in San Diego. Yeah.
Okay. And Commissioner Nelson?
Just to clarify, I would assume, so we don't violate the item above it, the open meeting law, that there would be a limited number of seats. We couldn't have a quorum there. We would have to select 2?
Less than 4, yes.
Less than 4? Okay.
So Commissioner Nelson, the gentleman who's now stroking his beard, I will put on my city attorney hat. If there is a possible notice of quorum, we do have to present it out. It doesn't necessarily limit commissioners. It just, if we know that there's a number of you and we hit quorum, we do have to make sure that there is a notice out there.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
So other than training opportunities, these are some thoughts that we are putting forward. And the lady is incredibly talented speaker and just energetic, and Commissioner Fighter, I think you will know her well, Kristen Slice. Kristen Slice, small business opportunity. So she is working with our Economic Development Services Department and through ASU. It's Peoria Forward. It's a wonderful program, so we want to share some of those details with you. We're looking at targeting them on the February 17th meeting. The next, and this might be open for first discussion. Commissioners, a while back, you were entertained not only by Mr. Lemke, but by Mr. Foray, by our traffic division, both on adaptive technology and our school coordination. It's been a while since some of the commissioners have been back to the Traffic Management Center. We would open it up if commission wants to revisit what the traffic center is and what it does. That is a potential for a meeting. Otherwise, we have additional projects that they are working on outside of handling development cases that they will be like to present in front of you probably third quarter this year.
I'd be open to everyone's opinion, but I found that extremely helpful. I still think about things I learned about that night, but I don't remember, was half the commission here? Yeah. I think we'd be interested in that for sure.
All right, thank you, Commission. We will make arrangements that typically requires then an off-site. We would probably move the meeting to our point of view room adjacent to the Traffic Management Center just for logistical purposes because it is a break. And so we can walk through those, but that will be in the future. We'll give you plenty of heads up in order to know when that's coming. One of the other things that we're considering bringing in front, if there is interest, is the city is updating the sustainability plan. That is so we think it would be ready for a rollout and discussion more in depth in terms of new items, new policies, new direction, tree rebate, possible program, some water conversation in there. We're looking at that third and fourth quarter for a presentation. We also suspect that probably a water resources discussion 2.0 may be warranted at some point in time. So I'm going to open it up to commission. Are those topics something of consideration that you'd like to see? Is there anything additional that you would like for us to bring forward?
Commissioners, any comments? I know myself, for one, definitely water resources, always something I'm very interested in. And like I already said, the traffic division update. Commissioner Fighter.
I think one other topic, and this is something that we've experienced in other municipalities, is process, as you were just talking about, is process is a plan is going through the city. There's different groups that have to review different, there's the MEPs, there's the site plan, there's the grading and drainage and all the civil reviews, is for us to better understand our process. And I know there's different people that have to review things, but understand the process of that project lead coordinating that, because we get into situations where everybody has all of their reviews back to us, but we're still waiting on and there's no one at the city to help kind of corral that, to help push the plans through the process. It's just it's so difficult getting plans and site plans and permits and inspections, all of that organized and back. It's becoming very time consuming to get through that process. So I think it would be helpful to us to understand that process, not to what are you guys doing, but to make sure that is best served for the development.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Chairman. I think those are great topics, Chris and Lori. I think it's been said, and I would concur, the sustainability and water are of particular interest to me personally. Something else I thought was valuable that we had in 2021, I'd love to see return in 2022, is an economic development update. So I found a lot of value in that. So I don't know what quarter you could decide when that's appropriate, but that's something else I'd like to see. Thank you.
Yes, we just went
same
to the Economic Development Advisory Board the last meeting, so I think it's appropriate that they return the favor. So, absolutely.
Yeah, I second Commissioner Nelson. That's something I think we're right on the cusp of a lot of opportunity, and I would love to hear what we're doing to make sure we capture that. Anyone else? Commissioner Waitman.
Thank you, Lori. I always love when you come before us because you make sure to cover everything. I am very interested in the Peoria Forward that's coming before us on the 17th, because if I remember, they came before commission last year. And I still remember, is that the same person that's coming before us? Okay, yeah, very energetic. So I'm very excited about that for sure. I think because as young professionals want to see that, right, in Peoria, what we're doing. So I definitely think that will be amazing. I do want to second what my fellow commissioner was saying, maybe an economic development update and really just some outreach, just making sure that we're getting some of these meetings and these what we would call hot topics out to the public to make sure that they're engaged, they know what's going on.
And Commissioner Hutchinson.
Thanks, Chair. Stemming from that economic development discussion, I would also like to see or hear from those in the workforce development space. And as you know, when a lot of the zoning attorneys present the cases for development, I'm always concerned about who is building these buildings and where we think we're going to get the workforce for future development. And I think that needs to be a topic that's brought forward to the Planning Commission, because we could plan all we want, but if we don't have a workforce to build it, it's not going to go very far. So if we can work that in somehow into one of those educational sessions, that'd be great.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Schaefer.
Thank you, Chair. No, I echo everything that's been said by the commissioners and Lori and Chris, what you've covered tonight. I think these are great topics and very informative, and it will help us as a commission. So thank you, Commission, and Chris and Lori.
All right, that completes the formal discussion, presentation, if you will. So we would be able to move on to the next topic if we so choose. Is there any other questions from Commission? Are we ready to go? Okay. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, it is that time of year again. The best time of year, election of officers. So I know you all look forward to this one, the first meeting every year. So current and former officers are listed up there. Why do we do this? You are only able to complete 2 terms in the same position, and then you would need to move to another position, so choose. So what does that mean? Chair, vice chair, and our secretary is, would be available for 1 more year for service. If you do not wish to serve in that capacity, by all means, it is open for all nominations for each position. I would ask that we have nominations. There doesn't need to be a second, so long as you accept the nomination, then we would be able to vote. Because of that, pretty much it's a free-for-all, starting with chairman. Mr. Chair, I would take any nominations for chairman for this coming year.
I have a request from Commissioner Hutchinson.
Thanks, Chair. I'd like to nominate Clay Alsop to continue as chairman. He's finally getting his head around this job and doing a pretty good job.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaefer was quick on that. I don't know if he has an objection, but I will hear his comment.
No, I don't have objection, and I know you don't need a second, but
Were you also going to?
I was going to nominate Chair Alsop as well. So it just, Commissioner Hutchinson was quicker on the button, so.
Thank you. I accept.
Are there any other nominations, or shall we vote on that particular one? Calling once?
All right.
Seeing none, may we have a vote, please?
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vice Chair, everyone up? Everyone is eligible except for Mr. Alsop. Do we have nominations?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Thank you, Chair. I would nominate our current Vice Chair, Mr. Tony Fider.
Mr. Fider, do you accept? Or do we have any other nominations?
Commissioner
Seeing-
Whiteman had, was that a second?
We need no second.
I think I'm just formal, so I think I want to second, but I think he did such a fine job. I definitely second Commissioner Fider's vice chairmanship for this current year.
Thank you. Shall we confirm with a vote?
Please vote. Thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Last but not least, secretary. Do we have nominations for secretary?
Commissioner Nelson.
I'd like to nominate Linda Grice as secretary.
She is not here to accept, but we will work with her, and I believe she may accept. Are there any other
Under
nominations?
the assumption she will accept, I
Yes.
nominate her. Okay.
Are there any other, yeah, I know, if you're not here. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, may we have a vote, please? All right, thank you for your service. We look forward to another successful year with members, with officers. So with that, we're going to wrap this up pretty quickly. Chris did mention, sorry, can we go into reports from staff? I don't think there's call for public on this particular.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Reports from staff, upcoming meetings. We, again, are slowly rolling out the commission meetings this time. We are giving you a break February 3rd. February 17th, we are going to have our Peoria Forward discussion along with some development cases going forward. So we look forward to having you back here February 17th. With that, Mr. Chairman, that is reports from staff.
Thank you. Do we have any updates from commissioners? Commissioner Nelson, I see you up on here. Was that, maybe I didn't delete it from before?
Yeah, that was an old, in the previous item, sorry.
All right. No commission updates. We'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you.